I was honestly blown away. Obviously, it's Michael Jackson. You have high expectations for a movie, and I feel like it exceeded those expectations.
So go see this movie. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Michael Jackson in theaters, babe!
Michael Jackson's movie just smashed every record out there, and even his own daughter stepped up saying it was full of lies. His sister has stayed completely silent, and that silence is loud. Something feels off because a whole wave of celebrities are seriously upset about how big this movie has become. Before getting into all the drama, just look at these numbers because they are wild. People were out here singing and dancing inside IMAX theaters all over the world, standing up, clapping, and turning it into a full concert vibe. That does not happen for just any film. The trailer pulled in 116.2 million views in just 24 hours, beating Taylor Swift's record, which says a lot. Critics only gave it around 38 to 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, while audiences pushed it all the way up to 96%. That gap tells you everything, and it starts to make more sense as things unfold. Before going deeper, some background matters. Michael Jackson is still one of the most talked about names ever, loved by millions, but always surrounded by controversy. Generations grew up listening to his music, and that connection still runs deep today. But in 2019, an HBO documentary called Leaving Neverland pushed serious abuse allegations back into the spotlight again. A lot of celebrities who stayed quiet before suddenly started pulling away from his name, creating a clear shift in how people spoke about him. Fast forward to 2026, and a $200 million biopic titled Michael drops and flips the entire Hollywood narrative in just one weekend. Here's something else people are not ignoring. This film did not come from Disney, Universal, or Warner Brothers. It came from Lionsgate, a smaller studio that had not been dominating headlines lately. And the actor playing Michael is Jafar Jackson, his real-life nephew, which makes the whole situation feel even more personal and complicated. The family connection adds another layer that people can't stop talking about.
I couldn't believe it. I got so emotional because he became Michael on that screen. It brought tears to my eyes.
Now look at the numbers because they hit hard. The film pulled in $97.2 million domestically, $121.6 million internationally, and a massive $218.8 million worldwide in just one weekend. That makes it the biggest biopic opening ever, beating Oppenheimer's $80 million record without hesitation. Think about that for a second. Oppenheimer had major Hollywood names behind it, and Michael still moved past it with ease. The movie cost $200 million and is already being projected to reach $700 million globally, which puts it in a whole different league. Now, bring in Snow White, because this comparison is where things get even more intense. Snow White ended up costing Disney a massive $336.5 million. That number is not a guess either. Disney had to create a separate company in the UK called Hidden Heart Productions, and UK law requires full financial records to be made public, so every detail is out there. There's no way to hide it. The film only brought in about $205 million worldwide, which already raised eyebrows. After the usual split between theaters and the studio, Disney walked away with roughly $102.9 million, while spending around $271.6 million in total. That leaves a loss of about $168.7 million, putting it among the biggest box office losses ever seen. It opened with just $43 million domestically, falling short of its own $50 million expectations, and this was a film that needed close to $700 million just to break even. The gap is huge. Now compare that to Michael's situation, because the difference stands out. A controversial subject, a low 38% critic score, a first-time actor leading the film, and a $200 million budget. Yet, it pulled in $97 million domestically in just its opening weekend. That is already more than Snow White made across its entire global run, which says a lot about audience interest. Disney poured hundreds of millions into a film that struggled to connect, while fans showed up fast and strong for something they felt represented them. Now,
why don't we see more of the Jacksons, or will we see more of the Jacksons later?
I'm not sure. That's a question for the producers and the filmmaker. However, and the studio, of course. I hope so. I hope so. I think so far it's wonderful, and you've seen it, and I'm sure you loved it as well.
shift to the family side, because this is where things get complicated. You would expect Michael's family to be front and center, celebrating a major moment tied to his legacy. But that is not exactly how things are playing out, and people are starting to notice. Start with Paris Jackson, Michael's daughter. She actually read the first version of the script and took time to send detailed notes back to the producers. She put real effort into it, expecting her voice to matter. They ignored all of it. So she jumped on Instagram stories and spoke up directly. She called Hollywood a fantasy land and said the film was packed with outright lies. She made it clear she had no connection to the final version, and she skipped both the Berlin and Los Angeles premieres on purpose, not by mistake. That move got people talking fast. Paris also said straight up that she chooses honesty over sales, which hits different when the film is tied to her own family's legacy. That statement alone shows where she stands, and it is not subtle.
It's Hollywood, so it's fantasy land. It's not real, but it's sold to you as real, and a lot of sugar-coated, like the narrative is being controlled. And there's a lot of inaccuracy, and there's a lot of just full-blown lies. And at the end of the day, like, that doesn't really fly with me. I don't really like dishonesty. I spoke up. I wasn't heard. I fucked off. That's it.
There is more going on behind the scenes, too. Paris is in an ongoing legal dispute with the estate's executors, John Branca and John McClane. She has accused them of mishandling money and running things poorly. On the other side, the executors claim she has already received around $65 million in benefits. That back and forth shows real tension, and it goes way deeper than just this film. Now look at Janet Jackson. She's not in the movie, she didn't attend any premieres, and she stayed completely silent in public. That silence stands out, and people are paying attention. She reportedly turned down the chance to be part of the film and made it clear she did not want her name attached to it.
Please stop asking me questions. Don't ask me questions. Are we finished?
There were also reports saying Janet and Jermaine Jackson had a heated argument after a private family screening, though LaToya later pushed back on that claim. She said no fight actually happened between them, which only added more confusion around what really went down.
Tried to float a rumor out there that there was this problem between Jermaine and Janet, or Janet and like them. What, you tell me what was going on.
There was absolutely no problem whatsoever, none whatsoever, and please believe it.
Now, this next moment turned awkward fast. Coleman Domingo, who plays Joe Jackson in the film, spoke at the Venice Film Festival and said publicly that Paris had been very supportive and helpful throughout the process. That sounded clean and simple, until Paris stepped out and shut that down herself. She directly contradicted him in public, making it clear that was not her experience. So either Coleman was given the wrong information, or someone involved was not being fully honest. Either way, it put a spotlight on how messy things were getting. LaToya and Jackie Jackson handled things very differently. LaToya showed up at the LA red carpet and faced the big question head-on: why most of the Jackson family was missing. Jackie Jackson, meanwhile, stood out in a more positive way. He openly supported Jafar's performance and did not hold back saying it. Randy and Rebby Jackson both stayed completely out of it and chose not to get involved at all. That leaves the family clearly divided, with different sides taking different positions.
Did you miss not having Janet in the movie?
I wish everybody was in the movie.
Yeah.
So.
Did you try to convince her and say, let's do it?
Well, she was asked, and she kindly declined, so you have to respect her wishes.
Yeah.
Now shift to another layer, because this part raised even more eyebrows. Back in 2019, Oprah Winfrey personally hosted the HBO After Neverland special, which brought heavy attention back to those earlier allegations. She sat on stage with Michael's accusers in front of a live audience filled with abuse survivors and gave that story a full hour of attention on her platform. She even said on camera that the documentary went beyond Michael Jackson, making it clear she saw it as something bigger than just one person.
Moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person. This is a moment in time that allows us to see this societal corruption. It's like a scourge on humanity.
Fans came at her hard for that decision, and she knew the backlash was coming. Still, she stood firm on her stance. Now, fast forward to 2026, and one of the biggest cultural moments tied to a Black artist in film is happening right now. Oprah Winfrey, someone known for highlighting Black excellence and powerful storytelling, has not said a single word about it publicly. No Instagram post, no tweet, no interview mention, nothing at all. People are noticing that silence, and it is being talked about everywhere. Now bring in Tom Hanks, because this moment connects in a different way. Back at the 2020 Golden Globes, Ricky Gervais was hosting and delivering sharp jokes, and the cameras caught Tom Hanks looking visibly uncomfortable in the crowd. That reaction spread everywhere and quickly turned into a viral meme that people kept using for months.
Instead of watching this show, that's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Ricky later said in a podcast that Hanks gave off the impression that he felt above the jokes, like they did not apply to him. That comment stuck with people, especially in a room full of celebrities who are often seen speaking strongly about different issues. And now, in 2026, with all this attention around Michael, there is complete silence from Tom Hanks, too. At the same time, Stevie Wonder, Magic Johnson, Usher, Raven-Symoné, Martin Lawrence, and Chance the Rapper all showed up to support the premiere. That contrast between who showed up and who stayed away is hard to ignore, and people are definitely reading into it. Here is where it gets even more interesting. Ricky Gervais called this kind of situation years ago. Back in January 2020 at the Golden Globes, during his final time hosting, he stood on that stage in front of the biggest names in Hollywood and openly called out what he saw as hypocrisy and disconnect from everyday audiences. It was one of the most talked about award show moments ever, and it spread everywhere, fast. Hollywood did not take it well, but online audiences could not get enough of it. That moment stuck around, and people kept bringing it up again and again. Then, in February 2026, after another wave of celebrity speeches at the Grammys that some viewers felt disconnected from, Ricky posted one simple image on X. It was a throwback to his 2020 speech with a short caption, "They're still not listening." That was it. No extra explanation, but it hit hard, and people immediately understood the message. Now, look at what is happening with Michael. Its success is being pointed to as proof of that same idea. Many viewers just want something that feels genuine when they watch a film. When they connect with it, they show up in big numbers, and that response speaks loudly. So, the big question now is why some people in Hollywood seem frustrated by this outcome. It looks like there are two different sides reacting, and both are getting attention because of how this film performed. Group 1, the critics. A 40% critic score going up against a 96% audience score is not just a small gap, it is a massive disconnect. Critics put their opinions out there, but this time it did not slow anything down. People saw the low rating, shrugged it off, and still went out to buy tickets. That kind of difference almost never happens at this level, especially for a film this big. It is surprising how far off the critics ended up being in this case. Their influence barely made a dent, and that's what has people talking. Now, Group 2, the major studios, and this is where it really hits. Lionsgate, not Disney, not Universal, not Netflix, not Warner Brothers, ended up delivering the biggest biopic opening ever. A smaller studio stepped in, told a story people already had a strong connection to, and treated the audience in a way that kept them engaged. That move paid off in a huge way. Meanwhile, the bigger studios spent years focusing on awards, critical approval, and larger messaging, only to be outperformed by a film that focused on giving audiences an experience they actually wanted. That result is what stands out the most, because it shows a different approach can still dominate without following the usual formula. Now here is where things start getting even more uncomfortable for the industry. The reaction behind closed doors has not been calm at all. There are reports of executives questioning how this even happened, how a film with mixed reviews and a controversial subject managed to pull this kind of power at the box office. Some insiders are saying the real issue is control. For years, studios believed they could shape audience opinion through critics, press runs, and heavy marketing. This situation flipped that idea completely. People made up their own minds, and they showed up in massive numbers without waiting for approval from anyone. And that shift is what has everyone on edge. Because if audiences are no longer following the traditional signals, then the entire system starts to look shaky. The usual playbook does not hit the same when people decide for themselves what is worth watching. There's also growing talk about what this means moving forward. If one film can break through like this, others might try the same approach. That creates pressure on studios that have been relying on the same formula for years. So now the focus is not just on Michael's success, it's on what comes next, and whether Hollywood is ready to deal with an audience that is clearly playing by its own rules. And now everything is pointing toward what happens next, because this is where the pressure really builds. Studios are watching closely, trying to figure out if this was a one-time moment or the start of a bigger shift. If audiences keep backing films like this, it could force a major change in how movies get made. There's already talk about more biopics being pushed forward, especially ones tied to big names with loyal fan bases. But the risk is clear. Not every story has the same pull, and not every audience will respond the same way. Trying to copy this success without understanding why it worked could backfire fast. At the same time, the conversation around trust is getting louder. Viewers are showing that they will support what connects with them, even if critics or industry voices disagree. That kind of independence changes the balance of power in a big way. So now, the industry is stuck in a strange position. Do they double down on the old formula? Or do they start adjusting to what audiences are clearly responding to? That question is hanging over everything right now, and the answer is going to shape what the next few years of movies look like in a big way. Now, it is your turn to speak on it. Do you think the Michael biopic really earned that 96% audience score? Or do you feel like the critics were actually onto something this time? Drop your thoughts in the comments and say exactly how you see it, because this debate is not slowing down anytime soon. There are strong opinions on both sides, and people are not holding back at all. Some are calling it a powerful tribute, others are questioning the story it tells. So where do you stand in all of this? Let it be known. And if you stayed all the way through, you already know the move. Hit like, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to see it, and jump into the comments. I will catch you in the next one.